Super cool intro.
What is up, my friends? Monty428 here, and today is quite the amazing day. Not for any reason in particular, but just because we are all here, living and breathing. Before I get this video started, I'd like to request two things. First, take this moment to soak in the good vibes that are around each and every one of you, and give a little thanks to the universe for allowing you to be here. Now that we're all encased in a barrier of good vibes, I'd also like to request that you get yourself a snack and some hydration. But I'm sure you've done that without me asking, because we all live by the same laws of our internet culture, being that we cannot eat without YouTube. One last thing before I get this video started, I'd like to thank everyone for the support on all of my videos over the past year. I'm very proud of all of the content that I've put out, and it makes me very happy that so many people have been watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my content. So shout out to the Monty clan and everyone else. You guys are awesome. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Today I figured I'd make a commentary video with some Overwatch 2 or maybe some Borderlands 2 gameplay in the background. So if you like this video, please be sure to let me know down below. And if you like this style of video from me, please let me know what type of commentary you'd like to see in the future. But today's topic is going to be about my good friend, Money Mike. I'm going to focus mainly on his infamous lore that everyone in my town is familiar with, because I find it to be a really interesting and captivating story that could honestly be made into a whole documentary, and I hope that that happens one day, but for now, this video will have to do. Also, for the sake of confidentiality, I will be referring to my town as New Haven. Money Mike, also referred to as Currency Michael and more recently as Dirty Mike, is a gentleman of older times. Back when New Haven was still Old Haven, the town was very simple. Run by the Irish and the Italians, it became popular for its bagel stores and pizza joints. Young Michael loved his town and its culture, and although he might not have known it at the time, he would end up spending his whole life in this town, which he is no longer fond of in any capacity. You see, Old Haven would change over the years, along with the rest of the world. As presidents came and went, and different people and ideologies spread throughout the lands, Old Haven would no longer resemble the humble town that it once was. Donning the name of New Haven, some people may argue that the changes it went through were for the better. But as we know, humans having feelings means that not everyone thinks the same, so people like Michael would come to resent the town that they once loved deeply. Nowadays, Mike mostly complains about the rising gas and food prices. However, neither of these are relevant to him, because he only eats out of the trash and primarily walks everywhere that he wants to go, both of course being out of the passion for such ways of life, not because of the aforementioned price gouges. Money Mike is a term that no one is really sure who coined, but it might be a self-given title, as Mike is aware of the nickname and is actually fond of it. So the legend goes that Mike walks around town, aided by his walking cane, loitering and digging out of the garbage cans to pretend that he is homeless. It's said that he's really loaded with money, and perhaps he just got so bored with life that the only excitement he can attain anymore is through cosplaying as a hobo. If you see Mike in the streets, you'll notice his bitter attitude towards pretty much everybody, swinging his cane at passing cars, hurling swears and insults into the air, and of course, rummaging through trash for food and money. So, if you are a parent in New Haven, you will likely inform your child of Mike's lore and advise them to treat him kindly, for he is simply a hobo with no worldly possessions aside from the clothes on his back and his trusty cane. However, this doesn't stop kids from physically and verbally assaulting Mike whenever they have the opportunity to do so. There have been several instances of Mike having enough of their shit and actually swinging his cane at them, and promptly going to the authorities for assistance, although he doesn't ever get it. So you see, Mike comes off as a rather tragic character, with maybe a couple of screws loose, but it's hard to truly understand his story from the outside. Luckily for you, I'm on the inside. For the past year and a half, I've been working as a cashier at a retail store in New Haven's main shopping center. There are two strips of stores there, with the one strip having my store being on one end of it, and a coffee/bagel shop and a pizza joint being at the other end. In between there's Chinese food and another retail store, But this strip is one of the 3 locations on the New Haven map that the devs program Mike's AI to walk to. Contrary to popular belief, Mike is not homeless. He lives in a small apartment complex all the way up the road from the shopping center, and so every day he leaves his apartment and walks on over. But if he doesn't go to the strip, then he can also spawn at a fast food place close to his apartment, as well as a grocery store down the street from the strip. So really, he has limited pathing with these 3 spawn locations, and you'll always see him walking between one and another. If you wait until it gets late at night when all the stores are closing, the devs did program Mike to walk back to his apartment, so you'll see him walking back. He doesn't just despawn like some of the other NPCs around New Haven. In all seriousness though, he literally walks from store to store via the same path every single day, and it's crazy to me how easy it is to compare him to an NPC that you would find walking around a Game Central hub area. Anyways, since I work at the retail store, Mike often comes inside to sit down, and so I've gotten to know his real lore, which I'm confident at least 90% of the town has no idea of. When Mike finished high school, he went on to become a factory worker, trading his labor for cold hard cash. He was a frugal man with said money, a trait that stuck with him throughout the years. He bought a cheap car and eventually found himself a girlfriend as well. I don't know much about his love life, but I do know that he went on to marry and have a son, although he eventually became divorced. After a couple years in the factory, he landed a new job at a sewage plant that maintained the water of a nearby river. Mike told me that he loved his job there and was still making good money. He didn't specify the exact position he held, but one day upper management decided to make some moves. Mike was transferred to another position, one that he was not so fond of. In fact, he hated it. He begged his superior to transfer him back to his previous position, but they wouldn't let him. Sadly, this new title would become the beginning of Mike's descent into madness. A row of dominoes that had yet to be tipped over would just now be set in motion. On one tragic day at the sewage plant, Mike would sustain an injury to his leg operating some heavy machinery. This injury put him in the hospital and out of work. For what ended up being more than just a few weeks of paid leave, Mike could not return to work ever again. His leg was severely damaged, and he was granted the option of receiving disability checks. But if you ask me, this story sounds more like sabotage. I think that someone working behind the scenes wanted Mike to lose his beloved position, and knew that his new one would be more dangerous, or maybe they even set him up on that near-fatal day as well. Maybe Mike was able to finesse a lawsuit and a settlement for lifelong checks, but like I said, that is just speculation. In the year 2020, another issue with Mike's leg arose, this time being arthritis. Even though his initial leg injury would heal over many years, it seems like the universe was trying once again to stop Mike from indulging in his passions. 2020 was a hard year for everyone, and for Mike, this was no exception. However, he didn't let the arthritis or even quarantine mandates keep him trapped in his apartment. He continued to walk. Pushing through the struggles of life, Mike stuck to his guns and lived the way that he wanted to, as a hobo, now more desperate than ever to find goods in trash cans. Since pretty much everyone else in New Haven abided by the quarantine mandates, there was hardly a morsel of food to be found. No coins on the strip's pavement. Mike told me that before COVID, he would often find 5s, 10s, even $20 bills on the strip, but now there was nothing. Surely this was a tough year or two for Mike's sanity. But once the world had healed and things were back to normal, the money thing, it still didn't change. He chalks that up to people just being stupid for not dropping their cash on the ground anymore. Obviously, people just became much more careful about pretty much everything, so yeah, their money was more secure in their pockets. Also in 2020, Mike was kicked out of the grocery store that he frequently attended for telling the manager to go fuck himself, which ironically mirrors what people say to him as seen in this tweet. The verbal altercation between Mike and the manager occurred because Mike was not allowed to loiter inside the store, especially considering this was during quarantine when trips to the store were only taken out of absolute necessity. He was banned from the store, but snuck back inside soon after to issue an apology to the manager. A bold and rather humble move on Mike's part, but it actually did pay off because the manager forgave him and unbanned him. This would not be the last time Mike would be banned from a store, and in fact, that story needs a whole video on its own. So if you'd like to hear that story, and trust me you do, be sure to leave a like and a comment on this video. I'd say that quarantine was the beginning of a new era in Mike's life. Even though he's pushing 70, he has a lot of fuel left in the tank for the disruption of business in New Haven. So, there you have it, the legend of Money Mike, a man whose passion for working and walking led him to become the most well-known man of his town. For the wrong reasons, but for the satisfaction of lore. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Oh, what you doing over there?
About this.
What do you got there?
Macaroni had some chicken,
Oh, some pasta?
pasta with some grilled chicken.
It's good.
Good? That's really, that's it.
What's it from?
Yeah, I guess so. Lovely.
Nice.
I like that.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow, Mike.
All right, see you.